So the first question says, the charge for 2 shuttle services are shown in the table. So they have Easy Ride. I'm going to highlight that in blue. And the other shuttle service is Best Ride. I'm highlighting that in purple. Okay, so question A says, write an equation that can be used to find the number of miles for which the cost of both shuttles is the same. So same, that means equation. That means equal, right? So I'm going to write one equation for Easy Ride in blue, and then I'm going to write one equation for Best Ride in purple, and then I'm going to equal them to each other. So in blue, it says Easy Ride charges $10 for pickup charge. That's a one-time fee, so no X. And then it charges 10 cents per mile. The keyword is per, so that means that 10 cents is going to get an X. For Best Ride, the pickup charge is $0, so I'm going to write 0. And then they charge 35 cents per mile. So per mile, that means multiplication. So 35 cents X. Okay, and because I say write an equation that can be used to find the number of miles for which the cost of both shuttles is the same, I'm going to equal the blue shuttle to the purple shuttle, right? Easy Ride equals Best Ride. I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to ignore the 0, right? 0 doesn't count. And that's my answer, because letter A is just asking to write an equation, and that's it. Okay, let's go to letter B. It says solve your equation. Find the number of miles for which the cost of both shuttles is the same. So again, same means it's an equal sign, and we're going to solve. So whenever we solve, we use the bridge to separate both expressions. Okay, so the goal of solving is to get x to be by itself. Right now, we can't do that because we have an x on the left side and on the right side of the bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the left one to the right so they're both together on one side. So the 10 cents is positive, so I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 10 cents. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So on the left, the purpose of it being opposite is that they are going to cancel. A positive and a negative equals 0. And on the right side, 35 cents minus 10 cents, that's 25 cents. Don't forget to carry down the x. And so we have 10 equals 0.25x. Now, I want x by itself. 0.25 is multiplying with x, so the opposite is division. I'm going to divide, and whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. On the right, 0.25 divided by 0.25, that equals 1. So they basically cancel, and you just get x. And on the left, 10 divided by 0.25 is 40. And that's your answer, right? The question said, find the number of miles for which the cost of both shuttles is the same, and the number of miles is 40. So you can say x equals 40, or you can say 40 miles. X equals 40 miles. For letter C, they're saying to express your answer using a complete sentence. So what does that 40 mean? So again, the question was find the number of miles for which the cost of both shuttles is the same. So I'm going to say in 40 miles, the number of miles will cost the same for both shuttles. And then I can show you how we teachers grade this type of questions. So you see right here where it says C, it says you can get 1 point for this correct statement. And there's an example. At 40 miles of shuttle service, the cost of both shuttles will be the same. So that's another way you can write the sentence. You also see that the equation is written with m's, but underneath it says that it can also be written with x's. So you can never go wrong with changing any variable to an x. Okay, let's go over one more type of a response question. This says a student solved the equation shown incorrectly. Explain the error the student made and correctly solve the equation. So first we're going to correct it and then we're going to explain the error. So whenever we're dealing with like mistakes or whenever we're dealing with these type of problems, what I like to do is I like to do the problem myself first. So I'm going to solve the same problem. And I'm going to move my c's to one side, my variables. I always like to move the smallest number, and the smallest number right here is negative. It's -2. So I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to add 2c, and whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So on the right, -2c plus 2c, they cancel. And on the left, positive 5c plus 2c, that's 7c. And then I didn't touch the -8, so I'm going to bring it down. And then on the right, I didn't touch the 3, so I'm going to bring it down. Now I'm going to put my constants together. -8, the opposite is +8. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. On the left, a -8 plus 8, that's 0, so they cancel. And we have 7c left. On the right, 3 plus 8, that's 11. And I'm almost done. 7 and c are multiplying. So the opposite would be to divide by 7. Again, do it to the other side. So 7 divided by 7, that's 1. So you get 1c. But remember, in multiplication, 1 doesn't matter. So it's basically canceling. And on the right, we get 11 over 7, and that's my answer. Now, before I call it a day, I'm going to go check in decimals. You can always check in decimals. How can we check in decimals? Well, you have an equation. So we're going to write the left side of the equation. So the first expression on the first line and the second expression on the right on the bottom line. So I'm writing 5c minus 8. And then the right side underneath 3 minus 2c. Now remember that decimals doesn't recognize the letter C, so you can either change the letter to X, or if you click on the error message, it says to add Y equals. So if you put Y equals at the beginning of every expression, it turns it into an equation. So I'm going to add Y equals to the first one, and you see that the line appears. And then we're going to add Y equals to the second one, and we see the second line appears. Now, I always remind you to zoom in, because when you zoom out, you see all those answers, you don't know which one to pick. But if you zoom in, then you can tell the point of intersection is right there, and it's 1.57. Now, I know my answer is 11 over 7, so I'm going to type it, and I'm going to see if my numbers match, and they do match. 1.5714, 1.5714. And so that means that 11 over 7 is correct. Okay, we're not done because the question said to explain the error. So now let's explain what happened. If you guys notice, the difference between their problem and ours is that we have a 7 and they have a 3. So clearly, instead of adding the 2c, they subtracted the 2c. But that's not correct, because if you do -2c minus 2c, that doesn't cancel. That doesn't give you 0. That gives you -4c. So the point of doing the opposite is it's for the 2's to cancel. So the student's mistake is that they didn't add the 2c, they subtracted it. Remember, when you cross that bridge, you always do the opposite. So I'm going to say the student's mistake is that he or she subtracted 2c when it was already negative. The student needed to do the opposite, which is to add the 2c. And you can always cut the sentence and make it shorter. You can simply say, the student's mistake is that the 2C was subtracted. And that's good enough. You can get a point for that. 1 point for the explanation, 1 point for the correct answer. That's 2 points. And that's it for this 2-question review. If you have time before you start your quiz, I would suggest going over yesterday's tickets. You can do the Wednesday ticket or the review ticket. The answers are posted right below in a PDF file named Exemplar. Review for whatever time you have left, and then whenever the 30 minutes are up, put your dividers up and get ready for the quiz.